Bayley is once again at it again, talking about Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, and Mercedes Mone. You know them as the four horsewomen of WWE. And in this video, I'm going to tell you exactly what she had to say about her three good friends, her three former stable members, if you will, because the four horsewomen of WWE, they were a rare breed. They came together in NXT being the forefront of change. They were part of the change of the women's revolution, evolution, and now what I consider the modern day of pro wrestling, the modern day women's division of WWE. And while they were never necessarily aligned together on television as a formal faction, the success in which they had behind the scenes in changing the culture of WWE, as well as on television as singles or even in tags or in various ways, is notable. They will always be linked together. And even though we never got the four horsewomen of WWE versus four horsewomen of MMA, it was still a epic idea. I think it still is an epic idea, because even though you didn't get it, it was the idea of what if Ronda Rousey clashed with, Mercedes Moné or Becky Lynch or Charlotte Flair or Bayley or whatever. When it comes to Bayley and her alignment with these women, there's always a pecking order. The pecking order is the fact that you had Bayley at the very bottom, while you had Charlotte Flair at the very top. And then you had Mercedes Moné, aka Sasha Banks, second place, right behind Charlotte Flair, never getting above her. And then you had Becky Lynch in the middle, right? Bayley, she was not called up to the main roster with the rest of them when that happened, right? She was called up later. Now, she found a ton of success in NXT. People still talk about her lovable babyface run in NXT, but I think she didn't get her flowers until years later. In fact, I don't think she got her flowers in terms of how good she is and how much respect fans have for her until years later on the main roster in 2019 or so, when she turned heel and showed a different side, a darker side, a more serious side to her character. Now, that leads us to today's video, because Bayley recently appeared on the Going Wild podcast, and she talked about the legacy of the four horsewomen, and I thought it was very interesting, and I wanted to share it with y'all in today's video, and that's what she had to say. I mostly see it, maybe the impact that made it nowadays in NXT, because when we were in NXT, what we had to look up to, as you guys on Raw and SmackDown, like Fox and Natalya and Tamina and Naomi, all these women on Raw and SmackDown, that was our goal. But there was no presence of women in NXT at the time. So it's like we had anything to try to compare ourselves to in NXT. We were like, we have to get to Raw and SmackDown. We got to be with the girls on Total Divas. That was our goal. But now in NXT, it's cool to see how the girls are like, okay, we're the new four horsewomen of WWE. Or who do you think would be the four horsewomen in NXT? It's nice to see that it's still alive, in a sense of those girls used to watch us in NXT, which feels crazy because it's been like 10 years now, that we have a legacy where there are women who are working in WWE that can say, we grew up watching you guys. We remember your matches here and match there. I remember Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch did that. You and Sasha did that. It's nice to see it continue to inspire women. And she's 100% right, because the legacy of this group, the legacy that Charlotte Flair has with Becky Lynch and Mercedes Moné and Bayley and vice versa, is they changed the game. They were part of the movement of taking the idea that women could only wrestle a certain way. They could not punch in their matches. They could not work the same psychology or moveset as the men. And in fact, they were just used as eye candy. It was absolutely appalling. If you go back and you watch some of those segments, it's appalling. It's outlandish. It's gross, to be honest. To see where women's wrestling is today, it's no longer looked down upon. It's no longer a bathroom break, if you will. The hard work, the success, the sacrifices, the injuries in which Bayley, Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, Mercedes Moné, along the sides of, a Naomi, a Beth Phoenix, a Mickie James, a Trish, a Lita, a Saraya, an Emma. You go down the list, and it's like all of this led to where we're at today. Really, for the last, I would say, 6 years or so, 7 years or so, pick a spot, 2016, 2017, 2018. I feel like they really tried in 2016 when they retired the Divas Championship. They put the Women's Championship on Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania 32. They really tried to make it, okay, Divas era is over. But I didn't feel like it was until about 2017, 2018 that they really started to find their groove. And WWE really let the reins go, and they were able to really craft what we know women's wrestling is today. The impact that Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch and Mercedes Moné and Bayley all had together, to Bayley's point, is significant. It does matter because their legacy, their hard work, their performances, their achievements has a lasting impact on not only fans, but fans who turn into wrestlers and then wrestlers who turn into superstars for WWE, who want to recreate the success in which they had there, to create their own legacies, their own blueprint, their own imprint on the history of not only WWE, NXT, but women's wrestling in general. That is the lasting impact. That is the lasting legacy in which Bayley and Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch and Mercedes Moné have. That is why wrestlers today look up to them. They try to emulate them. They try to be better than them. They try to recreate things about what they did together. They're never going to be connected in the sense of on television presence, the four of them, because we never got that. But what they are connected to, what Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch and Mercedes Moné and Bayley have, and will always have, is the connection on the bond of the women of the four horsewomen of WWE. And so that legacy connects them together and will link them together. And so when you go back and you fire up Peacock or on Netflix or whatever, you go back and you see them in their NXT days, you should look at, oh, Charlotte Flair had an impact on Bayley, or Becky Lynch had an influence on Mercedes Moné. Like those little things. That is what counts. That is what matters. And that's what Bayley is getting at here. That is why she talked about them, because you cannot be watching this product now and not see what they were able to do together. It's just how it is. That's what they do the best. That's what they see together. And I think if you look at it from that point of view, then you can appreciate the art. You can appreciate the sacrifice. You can appreciate the impact in which they had on WWE and the impact on the business as a whole. And as we go into newer chapters for all of these women, whether it's Bayley, who is getting closer to the end of her career that I think she realizes. I think Becky Lynch, who is also there because of parenthood, right? She's already been taking time off. Charlotte Flair, she's shown interest in outside ventures, while Mercedes Moné has outside projects that she wants to do in businesses. I think people don't realize how close we are to the end, or getting closer to the end for all four of these women's careers than people realize, and we're much closer to the end than we are in the middle of their careers.